of his disobedience, he's swallowed up by a whale. Okay, so Jonah chapter 2 verse 1, and we'll read up to verse 10. But as we go along, I've broken these verses into sections, ask some questions on the readings. So this is in the English Standard Version. Then Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows passed. Jonah prayed to the Lord his God from the belly of the fish, saying, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me. Out of the belly of Sheol I cried, and you heard my voice. For you cast me into the deep, into the heart of the seas, and the flood surrounded me. All your waves and your billows. I want to just define the word billows. The word billows is a large moving mass of something, such as a large moving mass of cloud or smoke that spreads over a large area. Okay, so when Jonah mentioned in their reading the billows, so this is from the Oxford Dictionary, the word billow, a large moving mass of something such as smoke or cloud that spreads over a large area. Here are the questions I want to, on the reading that we just read. Why was Jonah in the belly of the whale? Jonah found himself in a whale. What did he bring himself to do? And Jonah crying from the belly of the whale, or from another dimension. When you answer that question, English Standard Version, it actually gives it away. And the last question there, how Jonah described this place. 4 questions there for us to answer. Going back from Jonah chapter 2 verse 1 to 3. So I'll give you a little bit of time to answer that. I'll give an answer to the first one. Why was Jonah in the belly of the whale? Yep. What was his, can anyone tell me what was the disobedience? What was his anger to Nineveh when God instructed him to? Alright. Second verse. Now that Jonah found himself in a whale, what did he bring himself to do?
Repent to the Lord.
Yep, he repented to the Lord. Very good. Okay, so that's what he did. As he realized he was inside the whale. Third question there, is Jonah crying from the belly of the whale or from another dimension? Well, what do others say? Belly of a whale, or is that a
dimension? Another dimension.
What's Sheol? If you can remember from our previous studies, what is Sheol?
It's a place where
It's hell.
it's
Paradise. I mean, no.
That's right.
It's a holding place.
But it's if you didn't hear what Tony said, it's a Sheol is a holding place. Okay, in the Old Testament, Sheol was paradise as well as hell. You read the story of Jesus where he tells about Lazarus, the king, and Lazarus, the poor man, and that describes to us that how Sheol was a holding place for those who believed in God, and for those who didn't believe. Those who didn't believe, as we know, Sheol is a place of torment. Anyway, before I give out more answers, although it does say he's crying from the belly of the whale, but there's something that we got to learn that takes place. What happens to Jonah? So when he's in Sheol, what does that mean to Jonah? Is he alive or is he dead?
dead.
Yeah, he's dead.
Spiritually and physically.
Jonah is actually dead because He is actually in Sheol. He's in Sheol. So how does Jonah describes this place according to the verse?
The sea, the heart of the sea.
Yep. What else does he say? Just going back to the reading. Cast me into the deep, into the heart of the sea, yep. And the flood surrounds me. All your waves and your billows pass over. About a big place. If you look at this carefully, you're not going to see the sea. But now it's like it starts off actually describing where he's at that point, at that time. At the time of his disobedience. So for you cast me, he's not talking in the deep of the whale's belly. He's talking about the heart of the seas. So, and then the flood surrounds me. So he's flooded with things that he hasn't seen before, and all your waves and your billows, which means now he's seeing things like an area where it's just thick with smoke. That's what billows mean. If you didn't understand, he's actually describing Sheol. Sheol actually gives it away, where the previous verse, I called out to the Lord out of my distress, and he answered me out of the belly of Sheol. So if you know how I asked that question, the previous question, was he crying out of the belly of the whale or out of another dimension? He was crying out of Sheol. His body is in the whale's belly, but his spirit man, now he's telling what he's seeing from his spirit man. Are we seeing this? Okay? So if you didn't catch on to this, this is what's actually happening. This is how he's telling it. He's telling it from what his spirit man has seen. Moving on. Jonah chapter 2 verse 4 to 6. Then I said, I am driven away from your sight. Yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. The waters closed in over me to take my life. The deep surrounded me. Weeds were wrapped about my head. At the roots of the mountains I went down to the land where bars closed upon me forever. Yet you brought up my life from the pit, O Lord my God. Set of questions I'm going to ask you guys. I want you to think about this. He is now dead. Okay? So when you read this, don't read it from he's still he's looking inside the belly of the whale, and he's describing the belly of the whale. No, he's actually dead. So now the answers that you should be bringing is what he's seeing in the world of the dead. Okay? So here are the questions. What is Jonah driven away from? His faith makes him believe he will see what? Describe the danger he is in. That's the third question. Pretty simple, straightforward. I'll give you a few minutes to answer those questions. Relate to verse 4, 5, and 6. Okay, let's answer these questions. What is Jonah driven away from? Can someone give me an answer? God's side, okay. Very good. From God's sight. His faith makes him believe he will see what? Very good. The second part of verse 4 says, Yet I shall again look upon your holy temple. All right. How does Jonah describe the danger he is in?
Waters and weeds wrapped around his head.
Okay, so that's one of them. What's the other one?
The root of the mountain.
Yep.
He went down to the land whose bars closed up on him forever.
Okay, so there's the waters closed in over me to take my life. That's one of them. Then the next one says the waters, the deep surrounded me. That's 2. Weeds were wrapped around my head. That's 3. Roots of the mountains. At the roots of the mountain, I went down to the land where bars, so the bars closed over him forever. That's 4. Okay, so these were the dangers that that Jonah was seeing as he described. Could this danger possibly be forever? How?
If he didn't hunt,
Sorry?
Because
he didn't repent, it would be forever.
Yeah. But according to our reading, how's it going to be possibly forever? How?
it says he was locked up in with bars that cannot bars
Okay.
closed up.
He realized he's in danger, and it could be possibly forever. Part of that question says how. So I did read it out. It says, I went down to the land whose bars closed up upon me forever. Testimonies of people who experience hell. But the way they describe, especially the cells, there are many testimonies of people finding themselves inside a cell. We know what a cell is, eh? It's like a prison. Like alive, it's real, it's alive, like the walls are like alive. The bars, you just know that inside of you when you're in this cell, there's no way of getting out. I've looked at many testimonies of people. These are different testimonies, they're not the same. Of these people that shares about the experience of hell it tells us that we're in that place. Once you're in that place, there's no way getting out of that place. And I believe that's what he's describing. Does Jonah sound desperate in his cry?
Yes.
Yes, he's desperate. He's desperate because of what he's seen, what he's experiencing. It's no longer life that he's experiencing. What is he experiencing?
Torment.
Yeah, torment. He's in the whale, he was what? He was alive. But once he's in the whale's belly, now he's experiencing what?
Death.
Death. Yeah, he's experiencing death. What death really is in a lot more detail. But you see, I want us to look at this. Because he's swallowed, this is where it will describes it, okay? Let's just look at verse 5. The waters close in over me. So, of course you're going to think, oh, it's talking about he's in the whale. It's talking about the whale goes deep into the ocean. Yeah, like that, eh? Is it away? The verse before these ones, where it mentions Sheol. Look at the Bible. We got to look at certain words so we can understand where the person is speaking from. No, he's not actually describing what he's seeing inside a whale. He's describing what he's seeing because he's dead now. And that doesn't tell us he's dead, eh? Did anyone here believe that, like, before you read the story of Jonah, do you believe he was still alive in the whale? Who believed that? That he was still alive in the whale? Yeah, there's a lot of people that believe he wasn't alive in the whale. Carefully, certain words that's used in this, it's actually telling us he's dead. Out of his death experience, he actually tells what he saw in his death. And the roots of the mountain, I went down to the land whose bars closed upon me. See, then it tells us, this is actually telling us he's in a different place. I thought he was alive inside the whale. That's what I thought. I don't know if you guys thought the same, or you guys realize he's already dead, but For a long time, I thought Jonah was alive and he's telling his story while he's alive inside the whale. But understand that he's actually dead. The next three parts, verse 7 to verse 9. When my life was fainting away, I remembered the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple. Those who paid regard to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love. But I, with the voice of thanksgiving, will sacrifice to you. What I have vowed, I will pay. Salvation belongs to the Lord. An important lesson is learned from verse 7. What is it? Jonah mentioned vain idols. What do you think he means by this? Question: can you pick out differences in verse 8 and verse 9? Or compare the difference. Question: where Jonah quotes, "What have I vowed, I will pay." What do you think he means by this? That's the last question. What came to Jonah's senses? Okay, 5 questions to answer from verse 7, 8, and 9. Look at it carefully, okay? Because the questions now is asking your opinion. It's in verse 8. Jonah mentioned vain idols. What do you think he means by this? Look at the verse carefully. First question. An important lesson is learned from verse 7. What is it? Can anyone give me that? Quote the verse. Quote the verse.
Fainting away. I remember the Lord, and my prayer came to you into your holy temple.
So what's the important lesson there? I don't know what's... Sorry?
Times
Not to run away from the Lord.
Yeah.
some way, or we take God, His goodness for granted, and then when we lose hope, then we realize, we remember, we realize, God always there for us.
Yep, very good. The American Standard Version. It says here, when my soul fainted within me, I remembered Jehovah. Okay. Now the basic Bible, the BBE, basic Bible English. It says, when my soul in me was overcome, I kept the memory of the Lord, and my prayer came into me. When my soul fainted within me, I remembered. That's what we read in English Standard Version. In basic Bible English, it says, when my soul in me was overcome, I kept the memory of the Lord. It says, I remembered. International Standard Version says, I remembered. Modern King James Version says, I remembered. And then we come to the New English Translation, and it says this. When my life was ebbing away, I called out to the Lord. I called out to the Lord. What's an important lesson? I was fainting away, I remembered the Lord. So what's another lesson we can learn from that? What can you learn from that?
In the National Living, NLT?
New Living Translation. New Living Translation.
It says here, as my life was slipping away, I remembered the Lord, and my earnest prayer went out to you in your holy temple. So my understanding, like I said before, because he's saying that his life is slipping away, like his faith he was in the world, and then he just realized that what he went through, and then then he turned back to God.
So what's the lesson for you then?
So my lesson is that obedience, like stay.
Just from there, as you read, I remembered the Lord. So what's a lesson for you personally when you find yourself in situations in life?
Pretty much like, like exactly like, if I find myself in trouble, that's when I cry out to the Lord.
Okay.
Pretty much.
Anyone else?
The Lord is with you.
Yeah. Jonah, like the verse, like for me is when Jonah was nearly dying, and then he realized that he's dying, and then he cried out to the Lord. So the lesson here for me is like in desperate situations, God is the first thing to seek out for,
Very good.
instead of other things.
Okay. Anyone else? The lesson, the overall, view here, whatever we go through in life, are we quick to call out? Life may be going well. Sometimes when life is going well, we don't bother calling out because life is going well. Isn't that right? We sometimes forget the Lord. Yeah, sometimes we might say, oh, thank you, Jesus, because everything is going well. But because things are going well, we forget about God because things are going well. I'm not saying, but there are two sides when things are going well, eh? What the two sides when things are going well is some people remember the Lord, and then some people forget the Lord because things are going well. But when things are going bad, everybody remembers the Lord. But that's a good thing. Why? Because we're crying out to Him. In our memory, we remember Him. But the thing is, it's not enough just to remember or memorize or keep a memory of whatever situation we're in, the circumstances we're in. Cry out to the Lord. Remember Him. Is He in your memory when you're in desperate situations? Even at the point of death. Now, we know that Jonah here has died. He's died, but the Lord didn't keep his soul locked up in death. All right? God is giving him a time to reflect. And you see, sometimes the Lord gives us time to think about the situation. Sometimes we might have put ourselves in those situations, like what we're reading here about Jonah. Okay, so there's times we put ourselves in those situations, but the thing is, in us crying out, the Lord hears. And the answer, no, the Lord is going to walk with you so you can work out the answer. You get what I'm saying? He doesn't come and He gives you an answer, but he works with you so you can understand this answer. Why? Because when other people falls into the same situation, you got a what? You got an answer. Why? Because you've allowed the Lord to work with you to discover the answer. That's the important lesson, which I believe this story is that in this time of desperation. Right, moving on. Jonah mentioned vain idols. What do you think he means by this? Verse 8 carefully. I'll give you another question. Is this referring to certain people, to a type of people?
Those who pay regard to vain idols.
So who's those?
The people.
See, that's why I said, look at the verse carefully. This is not referring to Jonah. Help us understand here. He's trying to help us understand something. Sorry, yep.
He's warning us, those who worship false gods,
Yep.
deceive themselves with pursuit that, they will turn their backs on all God's mercies.
I don't think you guys are understanding this verse. Look at the first part where it says, those who pay regard to vain idols forsake they forsake their hope. So look at that. Is that what it really means? People who worship idols? No, I can't hear you.
Our spirit.
She said, is it our spirit, Melanie?
So what he's actually doing here, there's a comparison between a certain group of people and him. What's the difference with Jonah? Don't look at his disobedience, look at where...
Prophet.
Yeah, he's a prophet. So what...
He's speaking to me, like people, like, to Gentile.
Okay, so when you mention Gentiles, what do we understand about Gentiles? They are what?
Unbelievers.
They are what, sorry?
Unbelievers.
Yeah, exactly, non-believers. Okay? So what you're seeing here, those who pay regards to vain idols forsake their hope of steadfast love. So what he's saying is there are those who don't believe in God. And this is where he mentions they rather idols, they rather the things of this world, they rather the pleasures of this world than the love, the hope and steadfast love of God. They didn't realize, hey, I'm still a servant of the Lord. Even though he's dead. I've obeyed you. I've obeyed you most of my life. Besides when you told me to go to Nineveh. But I've obeyed you. But there are those who doesn't obey you. They worship vain idols. You get what I'm saying now? Okay? So he's bringing a comparison. He's bringing to the... He's coming to his memory, Lord, I don't worship vain idols, I worship you. You see the comparison? You're not going to see it, but when you look at it, you look at the way it's written. Okay, this is why I asked. Jonah mentioned vain idols. What do you think he means by this? It's a comparison. The comparison is he's comparing the lives of those who doesn't worship God and his life. So he's bringing like an argument before the Lord. I don't worship other gods. I don't forsake your hope. I don't forsake your love. I believe in all that. It's actually, there's hidden messages within a verse. And those hidden messages is just to help us understand, oh yeah, I get what you're saying here. And so we see a comparison here where he's like saying, Lord, I'm not like those who worship vain idols. I'm not like them. They don't believe that. They always forsake your hope. They forsake your... But I don't do that. Okay? Now, can you pick out, the third question, can you pick out differences in verse 8 or compare the differences in verse 8 and verse 9? Important, guys, read the verse carefully, think about it. Look at the way it's written. Yep.
In verse 8, Jonah is talking to the Lord, and and telling him that, just what you said.
What was it? What did I say?
He said that, Jonah's saying to the Lord, I don't worship idols. I remember you from former when I was worshiping you all the time, and this one incident that I disobeyed you. So he was in his
Okay, and then verse 9.
remembering.
What do you pick up from verse 9?
And then from verse 9, Jonah is making a covenant, like a kind of a sacrifice to the Lord that he's giving him thanks and praise for now he's alive, and the Lord heard his cry, and so he's making a choice, telling God, I will serve you for the rest of, like, from here on.
Very good. Anyone got anything different from anything different from verse 8 or compared to verse 9?
Sorry, I barely hear her.
So what Tangi was saying, like what I mentioned earlier, the points that about Jonah now realize he doesn't forsake God like those who worship vain idols. And so the difference, that's one of the points she picked out. And then in verse 9 she sees that Jonah is now giving thanks to the Lord, acknowledging God. Okay, so that's the comparison that she picked out. So do you guys pick out, do you see any others that might be different from Tangi's?
Turn the volume on.
It is up. Just got to speak loud. Not you guys on the other side. Our guys over here. I'll give you.
Me.
Awesome. Yep.
On verse 9, because he's comparing this on verse 8, and then he realized that he's giving thanks and praising God, for what he has done, and making vows and saying this selfish.
Can someone give one word for verse 8 and one word for verse 9? Can anyone come up with something? The difference with verse 8 and the difference with... So what do we see? There's one word I can come up with in verse 8. It describes verse 8.
Verse 8, it's God's mercies and God. Then the Lord. That's my point.
It's a codfish.
How do you get that?
From the internet.
Sorry, because mine's a different version.
Just on the where it says those who pay regards for a non-believer, is there a chance for them after life? No. Yeah, okay. So now verse 9 we're seeing that he's giving thanks, he's sacrificing, He's making vows. So what do we see here? He's now he's what? He's built up what? Sorry?
There's
Yeah, he's built up confidence, but he's also built up something else. Yeah, faith. Another word starting with H.
Hope.
Sorry, what was the other one? Humbleness. Okay, so another comparison that we can see here is verse 8 shows there's no hope. Alright? There's no hope. Verse 9, the way he speaks in verse 9 shows that there's hope. You look at it, you compare the two. When he talks about, there are those who regard to vain, there's no hope in vain gods. There's nothing. When you die, there's no hope, there's no steadfast love. But then he goes on to say, but my voice will give thanks and sacrifice to you, and I vow to you. So now he's built up, humbleness, but at the same time hope. Because it's what he knows about God, that's what built up that hope inside of him. Okay? What he knows about God is what builds up that hope inside of him. And so there's a lesson here. What you know about God can help you get out of your situations. What you have come to know about God can guide you along your journey with the Lord. What you have come to learn about God or know about God can give you better understanding of situations you're in. As when you look at verse 8, there's no hope. Because we find ourselves at times in point, we're stuck. We're stuck. But what I want us to understand, verse 9, is Jonah, even though he was stuck in the most, it's hell. You could put it this way, how the hell is he going to get out of there? It's hell. He's in hell. But he built up hope. He built up confidence. He humbled himself, like what you guys are bringing. He turned to the Lord. He realized what he built himself, I'm going to use this because I know this is the God that I serve. Sometimes we have the answer to the problem. It's just that at the time we are stuck. Do you guys find yourself in those situations? Okay. There are times where we are in problems, but yet we have the answer. It's just that we're stuck. But the lesson here is when you find who you are in Christ, when you understand the knowledge that the Lord has fed you through his word,